after this huge win on Sunday. What a crazy game. And I think a result of this game is that the Bears were just forced into making a huge trade before tomorrow's trade deadline. This crazy win at Cincinnati, it just changed some things. It changed expectations. We're now a half game out of first place in this division. The playoffs are a real thing. Possibly winning this division is on the table. So that's one reason to make a big move, but there's also something that happened during this game that also changed the need to make a move at the trade deadline, because now there's a need. We picked up another major injury. I don't know if you guys saw Dayo Odeyingbo leaving the game in crutches yesterday, but now it's official of what that injury actually is. And Ian Rappaport, Rap Sheet just reported that Dayo Odeyingbo, unfortunately, he suffered a torn Achilles in the team's win over Bengals on Sunday. They announced that he's going to miss the remainder of the 2025 regular season. This all comes at a critical time for the Bears, right? And the Bears are reportedly being slated to be aggressive ahead of the trade deadline. Fox NFL insider Jay Glazer, he's saying that the Bears are among several teams who are being aggressive ahead of this trade deadline. He's alluding to the fact that the Bears need defensive line help. And this is even before the Dayo Odeyingbo injury. And he's talking about specifically when it comes to the pass rush. No surprise to us, right? The Bears have not generated a consistent pass rush, although they were getting to Joe Flacco on Sunday. I will give him that. This ankle injury for Dayo, so bad. I think this is going to force GM Ryan Poles into making a move. One thing is, the Bears were discussing a trade for Jalen Phillips. They could have certainly used him, but he is now a Philadelphia Eagle, so he's off the table. Brad Biggs talked about today that Chicago discussed a potential move for Miami Dolphins edge rusher Jalen Phillips. They were in serious conversations for them. What is the Chicago looking at now? We have Montez Sweat, we have Austin Booker, and we have Dominique Robinson, who is actually out with an ankle injury. He's not going to play anytime soon. And then Daniel Hardy is the only other presence outside. I think they're going to be looking for reinforcements. Glazer mentioned a few names that could be available. Let's go through those names. He's saying the Dolphins could have a couple other guys that might be suitable. Granted, Phillips is off the menu. But what about Bradley Chubb? What about Matthew Judon, a guy that the Bears did flirt with the other year as possibly bringing him on the team? We need someone that's not going to cost huge draft capital unless we're going for someone like Trey Hendrickson. I think that's a pipe dream. But I don't think they're going to go for a Micah Parsons 2.0 type of trade deal. I don't think that's going to pick. I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're going to look at the Bears possibly looking at a guy like Chubb. And I think he's intriguing. We're looking at a 29-year-old former top 5 pick. He has 4 sacks this year, 7 quarterback hits, a forced fumble, 5 tackles for a loss in 9 games this season. The guy can still play. And if he was actually added tomorrow, he'd have more sacks than any other pass rusher on the Chicago Bears roster. I think it's important to actually make a serious call to possibly get Bradley Chubb on this team, see what he costs. And then you're also looking at, if the Bears want a little more familiarity, what about Carl Granderson? You guys know him. He's from the New Orleans Saints. He has familiarity with Dennis Allen. They worked together previously. He's a really good option to possibly bring in. Or here's another one. And I wasn't thinking about this until Glazer brought him up. What about edge Cameron Jordan? What about him? He's a little long in the tooth, but this would require the Bears front office to get a little creative with salary cap numbers because he's going to cost a little more. He's a veteran from the Saints, but I think bringing him in, that would be a lot of fun. It'd bring even more reinforcements into this new look defense, but he'd also be once again reunited with defensive coordinator, former Saints head coach Dennis Allen. He's not going to hold the weight of this whole defense, but he would definitely be a huge contributor. And you're looking at the Saints facing a real possibility of this being a complete teardown. They don't even have a quarterback right now. Having a veteran like him, having a veteran like Jordan with a huge contract, possibly is something that they might want to unload, and they actually might be willing to pay a bunch of his salary this year to actually get a deal done. I'd like to see that happening, and I wouldn't mind seeing. I think it's more. I think it's definitely possible that the Bears do add a New Orleans Saint, because you're looking at Dennis Allen. He obviously had a hand in bringing C.J. Gardner-Johnson onto this squad, and I still really like the move. But then you're looking at something too. What about Malcolm Kuntz of the Las Vegas Raiders? He's 27 years old. He's still young. And while his production is not off the charts, he only has 1 sack in 7 games. He wouldn't cost much. That's a possible depth signing. There's so many players here that are a possibility. But who's actually on the market? Maybe that's a better view. Maybe that's a better string to pull here. The Bears are likely in the market. And these defensive ends are likely available. Jermaine Johnson of the New York Jets. He's a fantastic player. I would love to see them go after him. And I'm going to butcher this name. I always do. Arnold Ebiketie from the Atlanta Falcons. He's likely available. And if those players are available, what would the Bears use for ammunition without just getting rid of all of our draft picks next year? Because I think the Bears can get one heck of a defensive end next year in the draft and use our first rounder to do it. So no one's talked about Braxton Jones in quite a while, right? Fowler agrees. This is a quote from Fowler. Rival teams agree that Jones is a sensible trade candidate after his benching in favor of Theo Benedict, and his resume as a multi-year starter in Chicago says it all. He's been injured Jones is on injured reserve until week 13 at the earliest. That kind of complicates it, but this health issue is not considered a long-term thing. A desperate team could want him as a left tackle or even insurance for a playoff push. And you're looking at a team like I always want to say San Diego, the LA Chargers. They might be desperate for a left tackle. They just lost Joe Alt for possibly the whole season, at least for quite some time. It's a high ankle sprain. I don't know. This is a second ankle injury for Joe Alt. He might opt for surgery. I'm not that hyped on the Chargers, but I think they're definitely in the market for a left tackle. Why not offer him to the Chargers and see what's up? Now, I think what's most likely is that the Bears use a day 3 pick for somebody that can be used rotationally. I'd love to see him take a big swing here. I'm starting to get excited about this season. And another question is, do they need to take a big swing? Because was Dio performing really at a level that he's even going to be missed? That's another angle that no one's really talking about. People are saying that he's injured, so the Bears have to take a huge swing, but Dio wasn't making a huge impact. And this is after being signed to a 3-year, $48 million deal in March. He spent the first 4 years of his career with the Colts, 26 years old. He's played in and started all 8 games in Chicago. And what has happened during those 8 games? 1 sack, 21 tackles, 1 pass deflection, 4 quarterback hits. PFF hasn't given him a good grade, a 54 defensive grade for the season. That makes him 101st out of 119 eligible guys for that PFF rating. He hasn't lived up to expectations in his first year. It's not a good thing to see him go down with an injury, but his absence opens the door for Austin Booker for sure, right? He made an impact in this game against Cincy. He caused that turnover, but he's a speed guy off the edge. What about run defense? I don't know. I think the Bears got to do something. I don't think what they have is enough, and I think this injury to Dio Odangbo, coupled with Shamar Turner being out for the year, I think it forces their hand. I think they have to make a move. You guys let me know in the comments, who would you like to see join this team? Or do you want to see the Bears stand pat? I don't think anyone's going to say they want the Bears to stand pat. We'll chop it up in the comments, bear down, and we'll talk again tomorrow to see. We'll be talking about at that time what the Bears actually did at tomorrow's trade deadline. Bear down, and we'll talk tomorrow.